There is a fascinating phenomenon that permeates human behavior and goes far beyond simple stubbornness or superficial rebellion. While the vast majority of people experience some degree of discomfort when faced with direct commands, there is a specific group of individuals who display a visceral, almost instinctive reaction when confronted with imposed instructions. This response does not arise from excessive arrogance or immature temperamental outbursts. Rather, its roots are deeply intertwined with these individuals' mental architecture, with the unique way their brains process hierarchy, freedom, and personal identity. Studies in the fields of behavioral psychology and social neuroscience have revealed that this intense aversion has well-defined neurological and psychological components, uncovering personality traits that, all too rare, are entirely legitimate and understandable when examined carefully. Let us explore 5 striking and uncommon characteristics that typically manifest in those who experience this profound resistance to receiving orders from others. The first of these notable characteristics lies in what specialists refer to as an exceptionally heightened sense of personal autonomy. Imagine the feeling of being in a wide, open space where you can move freely in any direction, choosing your own path. Now imagine that suddenly invisible walls begin to rise around you, limiting your options and directing your steps. For most people, this would be uncomfortable. For these specific individuals, it is almost unbearable. Autonomy is not merely a preference for them. It is a fundamental psychological need, as vital as the need for belonging or security that others may feel. When they receive a direct order on how to proceed in a situation, even if that guidance is objectively sensible and well-intentioned, something inside them tightens. This is not a capricious refusal, but a genuine response to a perceived threat to their freedom of choice. Researchers who study self-determination theory have identified that these individuals possess what is called a high need for autonomy, a trait correlated with greater creativity, innovation, and non-conventional thinking. For them, the ability to decide how, when, and especially why they act is not a luxury. It is an integral part of who they are. Independence in decision-making is not merely a lifestyle preference. It forms the very essence of their identity. When this freedom is compromised, even momentarily, they experience not just frustration, but a kind of cognitive dissonance of feeling that something fundamental is being violated. This explains why they can collaborate perfectly in environments where their opinions are valued and where they actively participate in decisions, yet react negatively when they are simply told what to do, with no room for questioning or adaptation. The second characteristic that distinguishes this group is their marked tendency to process information before acting, especially when that information comes in the form of instructions or commands. Unlike individuals who have a natural predisposition to follow established authorities, these people do not automatically accept directives. There is an intermediate mental processor, critical filter, that activates immediately. When confronted with an order, they do not simply obey. Instead, a series of internal questions unfolds. Does this request have a solid, logical foundation? Are the arguments supporting it convincing? Is there rational justification for proceeding in this specific way? Does this approach align with my values and understanding of the situation? This behavior is closely linked to what cognitive psychologists call independent critical thinking, or autonomous reasoning. It is crucial to understand that this resistance does not stem from a desire to create conflict or from an oppositional stance taken on principle. They are not rejecting rules simply for the pleasure of transgression or out of an adolescent need to challenge authority. What truly happens is that their mind demands understanding and internal agreement before action. If a rule, instruction, or expectation does not pass the test of their logical reasoning, if they cannot see the connection between the command and a positive outcome, or if they detect inconsistencies or arbitrariness in the request, resistance arises naturally. This trait is often associated with higher levels of education, exposure to environments that value questioning, and the development of refined analytical skills. These individuals frequently excel in fields that require innovative thinking, creative problem-solving, and the ability to challenge existing assumptions. They are the people in meetings who ask the difficult questions, who do not accept the status quo without investigation, who improve processes precisely because they do not follow protocols blindly. The third fundamental characteristic of this psychological profile is related to the source of their motivational energy. These individuals operate primarily from what motivation theorists call intrinsic motivation. In contrast to the extrinsic motivation that drives many others, the difference is profound and consequential. Intrinsic motivation means that the drive to act comes from within, arising from genuine interest, personal values, natural curiosity, or a sense of purpose aligned with one's identity. When these individuals voluntarily choose to engage in a task because it resonates with their internal goals, their capacity for focus, persistence, and excellence can be truly remarkable. They dive deeply, work with intense dedication, and often exceed expectations. However, this internal engine has a peculiarity. It does not respond well to external pressure, threats, conditional rewards, or, especially, direct orders. When someone imposes a task on them through command, something interesting happens at a psychological level. Research in motivational psychology shows that external imposition can effectively suffocate existing intrinsic motivation, a phenomenon known as the overjustification effect. Suddenly, what could have been done with enthusiasm becomes an obligation, losing its appeal. The task ceases to be something they chose to do and becomes something they must do. And this shift in mental framing has tangible consequences for their performance and satisfaction. Studies suggest that individuals primarily driven by intrinsic motivation tend to demonstrate greater creativity, better long-term psychological well-being, and greater satisfaction with their achievements. They need to feel ownership over their actions. They require the sense that they are acting by their own choice, guided by their own internal compass, not by external pressures or expectations.